Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm going to share with you this setup that I made using Sverchok add-on in Blender. It's actually it's not new, but I'm revisiting the old ideas of using grease pencil in Blender. But since we are now able to do this kind of easily, like live grease pencil, and then turn it into like a real mesh using Sverchok, I want to take this as a kind of like an advantage, because now if we are we can actually kind of make any doodle nowadays and just convert it into like a real mesh depending on the setup that you have here. Currently I set it up so that if I'm making like a doodle, this guy will update, but I need to still control the resampling manually, and that's dependent on how many strokes I have as well. So if I have multiple strokes like this, I just make like random stuff, and if I update it, you can see that I'm controlling each and every strokes resampling in a manual way. Actually, it's kind of like this kind of process because it's giving some kind of more control for the users. And you can see if I have like more strokes than the actual number of sampling, this guy will actually kind of just pick the last number to do the resampling of this text. And oh yeah, this is actually I forgot to explain to you. This is my kind of like a experimental blend where I make this kind of like a graffiti kind of design. It's not like it's not super fancy, but I'm using Blender non-photorealistic render as well to get this this kind of like a scribble. I really like this kind of design actually. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think like a handwriting kind of design is actually, for me at the moment, is more interesting than like a super high like realistic kind of 3D. But I don't know. I don't say that the realistic render is not amazing. It's amazing for what it is, but I'm more interested to do like more graphic stuff. So yeah, I'll show you how to make this from scratch. It's actually, maybe I don't need to make from scratch, but if you look at, this is the final notes. If I just summarize this, so basically this object ID gets all the grease pencil in 3D scenes, and it tells you there are like 8 different grease pencil frames, and we can pick a frame. And then here we are doing the vector interpolation thing as usual, and then I randomize. This one kind of give that graffiti kind of very loose kind of design, and then I have this random number to add more to this design, like make it more random somehow. So yeah. So anyway, I can build this from scratch, just to be clear. If you don't know already, if this is your first time looking into my video, I'm using Blender 2.78b. Maybe soon we get Blender 2.79. And in order to follow what I'm doing here, you need to install Sverchok add-on. You go to Sverchok GitHub, download the zip, and then install the add-on. Once you have the add-on, you should get this additional node tree that you can work on. Okay, let's get started. So the idea is to make kind of like a graffiti kind of artwork. So you might have seen like a graffiti works that's actually looking something like this. I'm trying to write my own name there, or sometimes you see like scribble that looks like this. It's actually like a, probably this is like more like a poorly designed graffiti. Normally it's only like contain like strokes, but we are trying to improve this design and try to make it 3D. because if you have graffiti that looks like this and then you want to turn it into 3D, it's not actually that simple. And especially if you want to make it more interesting, to make it like a form, and then I've seen like really beautiful graffiti made this way. This is like really poorly designed. This is slightly better and still pretty ugly. But if you try to use grease pencil to do it, maybe we can improve it much easier. So that's kind of the idea. So I'll try make like a graffiti design first. I'll write down a snail, or maybe I'll write down sushi. Okay. Probably that's pretty bad design. Not too bad. Anyway, that's the, okay, let's save it first. Grease pencil graffiti. This is only one type of graffiti, by the way. There's also a famous one, like more like a bubble. I'm not a graffiti artist myself, but this is I'm kind of studying it sometimes. Okay, this is our design made using grease pencil and mouse, and now we're gonna turn this into like a 3D kind of design. So let's use, first of all, use object ID. Object ID selector, that's the one, and we can pick a grease pencil data, pick our grease pencil and GP layer, and we just leave it as it is using the active frame, because if we are using the active frame at any frame here, we can kind of make another design, and you know, and then this thing will update accordingly. So let's leave it like that for now. Keep in mind that if you don't know, you can always turn grease pencil into curve this way. Okay, that's a Blender thing. You can also turn it into something like this with no link strokes. So that's for your information, just in case you want to do this manually. But we're gonna do it using Sverchok. So just simply by using this node, we are grabbing, kind of sourcing the data of this grease pencil. And the next thing we want to do is to resample this guy. But first of all, I'll show you what the data looks like. Plug this out into the vertices. So that's our data. Okay, it looks like a bunch of points, and we can also see there's like 7. It says 7 strokes. I'm actually using 7 strokes here. I'm not using the strokes pressure sensitive data yet. I don't have the Wacom tablet here at the moment. I'm just using mouse. So later on, at some stage, we're gonna use the grease pencil stroke pressure data. For now, it's just the points. We can easily turn this into real objects simply by using the polyline viewer. Let's plug that in and wait a few seconds, and we are done. I think we get the result already, just really thin. And grease pencil, as it is, can be really heavy. It's not recommended to. Sometimes if you have so many strokes, this can get pretty heavy. It's much recommended for you to do vector resampling. So vector interpolation is how you can do resampling. So this is the original points, and it comes as a 7 stream of data. Keep that in mind. And the result should be we want to resample, so we need to use range float over here. Count 0, start, stop 0 to 1, and the count is how many sampling you want. The result can go in there. And I think this is by design. The nodes we are using here actually smart enough to detect like a separate strokes and kind of doing everything for us basically in the background. Thanks to the developer, I think he thinks a lot about this and making it so easy for us to do. Okay, currently the sampling number here, the count, is really applied to everything. It's okay if you want it like this, you can simply just bake it and that's your graffiti design, but I'm not very happy with this. I want to have control over each strokes. So you can do it this way. If you want to control the strokes, use list input. Oops, I made a mistake, but anyway, save it. And with list input, you can have a list depending on how many strokes. Currently we have 7, but you can have more. Sverchok should be smart enough to just use the 7 here. And use this list plug into the step. And by doing this, you can control the sampling of each strokes. Currently, I set it up, everything is 0 and Sverchok is frozen. Yeah, that's probably my mistake. I shouldn't give this like a 0. I should give it at least a number. Let's wait a bit. Sometimes I think the last process here, the polyline can be slow. I need to cut it for... If you don't want Sverchok to update each time, you can turn it off in here, I think. Where is it? I think it's probably somewhere here. Do not show the layout or something, or do not process P. If you turn this off, it will not update every time. But anyway, let's go back to this. We have 7 stream of data. So let's say we're sampling, give it like 4 sampling for each one of them, plug into the step. Now I have like more control over each and every design. Seems like I might actually have 2 node 3. So this is the one. It's a graffiti from Grease Pencil GP. Okay, now I think this should work. Grease pencil and pick the grease pencil layer. Interesting. Maybe I accidentally delete something. Sorry about that. Seems like it's got some kind of exception. Oh, I'll go back to this guy and there we go. File, save as. I accidentally made 2 node 3 and I think they're clashing with each other. It's not a good thing. So anyway, now I have control over every strokes. Now with the graffiti, I think, if I'm not wrong, you don't actually have that kind of details. You actually want to have less detail. So I reduce the subdiv to 1 or 0. 0 is okay. And I can use the wire. I can turn on the wire. Smooth. Maybe keep it not smooth it. So hard edges. And also, like I said, we have control over each and every strokes. I'll hide this guy. And also let's we can turn off the grid this way using nodes. Blender just decided to restart itself, so I'll restart. It's gonna take a few seconds, but we are kind of done actually. It's just now a matter of making it a little bit prettier, so just cosmetic stuff, but you got all the techniques there. So instead of, you know, originally we only have like this ugly graffiti using grease pencil, like very basic, but now once we turn it into like a 3D form, this looks actually looking not bad. In fact, sometimes when during the resampling, you can decide, oh, okay, maybe I can keep that kind of design. Less is more is true. Okay, less is more, and this guy maybe just few sampling, and that's the spiral thing. You can actually use different radius for each one of this guy as well, if you like. You can control the twisting or just leave it like it as it is. I think this should be pretty good. So that's for the sushi. We can hide the grease. Why is it coming? These guys keep coming back. Oh, that's the other guy. It's the other node 3. I'll delete this. Double check if everything's still working correctly. Grafitti GP. Okay, still working. Cool. If they are touching each other, it should be actually a lot nicer actually. Turning ambient occlusions. Overlapping is not good, but if your design, if you make like a material that's non-photorealistic and shadeless, this should be fine. So if I try to render this out, for example, shadeless is probably a little bit too basic. I'll just turn on ambient occlusion so we have some kind of form. It's nice to have the outline as well, but I'll just leave it like that for now. So that's one design. I can make another one. That's the snail logo. File set as. See, at any time you can actually set up your resampling. If you want to use just a single value, you can do that. Pretty easy. Even for my very ugly graffiti there, I can turn it into like a more like artwork. It's more proper, I think, as a 3D. There you go. It's much better as a form. Yeah, you can try other stuff like blend. I did blend, maybe heavy or light. Oh, my grease pencil is off. Light. You see the form being generated on the fly. You can always add a resampling as needed. I think that's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. This is really fun actually. you can try designing this yourself and just play around with it. And once you're done, you can render it using fancy material like so. Now I do this all the time. Just use a basic normal and render it out. There you go. If you use the Filmic blender thing, you can make it more contrasty and give some kind of color grading. It's totally up to you. So yeah, that's how you can use Sverchok and their latest update to the object ID to access the grease pencil data. It's very simple, very easy kind of technique, but you can really use this for your own design. I think it's super handy. I recommend you to give it a try and let me know if you have any question. Yeah. So thanks again for tuning in to Blender Sushi. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.